The story of the Moulin Rouge is one of fierce love, competition, and complex communication. The interaction between all characters and actors involved flow smoothly and, to the keen eye, show key aspects of communication behind every interaction. Three methods like establishing bonds with others, misunderstandings, and interruptions all serve calculated plan to establish personalities and the purpose behind every character within the story. This story being the Moulin Rouge. The movie takes place in 1899, and Christian, a young English writer, has come to Paris to follow a bohemian revolution that is taking hold of the city's drug and prostitute-infested underworld. And nowhere is the thrill of the underworld more alive than at the Moulin Rouge, a nightclub where the rich and poor men come to be entertained by the dancers, but things take a wicked turn for Christian when he starts a deadly love affair with the star courtesan of the club, Satine. But her affections are also being coveted by the club's patron, the Duke. A dangerous love triangle ensues as Satine and Christian attempt to fight all odds to stay together, but a force that's hidden from both the Duke and Christian is taking its hold on Satine. She is dying from an illness that she hides from both of them. And things also take a turn for the worse when eventually the drama takes its toll on both Christian and Satine's hidden relationship. The pair almost split apart at the end also, but miracles do happen, and Christian and Satine do find their love story at the end. However, right after they affirm their love for each other, Satine succumbs to tuberculosis and dies in Christian's arms. A year later, the Moulin Rouge has closed down, and Christian writes his tale of love for Satine, a love that would last forever. We as humans feel such an array of emotions due to how we communicate with other people around us. It costs time and possibly it causes a few headaches down the road, but it's also how we form close bonds with others. Emotions and bonds like love are formed the same way. Therefore, crystal clear communication is the most important thing to use to connect with an audience as a speaker, also as a human being who's trying to find their place within society. The same thing goes for what happens in the Moulin Rouge. The movie is filled with multiple forms of communication that all serve a specific purpose in the movie, whether it be for comedic effect or to establish bonds between key characters in the plot. For instance, we see Christian when he first arrived in Paris. He has no connections within the city and he's truly on his own. But soon after his arrival, he meets a group of performers that are trying to finish a play. Christian uses his writing skills and improvisation to help the performers finish their play and offer him a job in it. The encounter with the performers was a complete coincidence, but it's the first step in Christian's story within the Moulin Rouge. Next, onto what can create a great comedic effect in some moments, but also can cause unnecessary drama that can ruin relationships. Misunderstandings. Misunderstandings can change the entire mood of a conversation for the better or for the worse. No funnier misunderstanding within the plot of the Moulin Rouge is when Satine mistakes Christian for the Duke that she was supposed to seduce. Satine dances with Christian before retiring to her private chamber to discuss things more privately. But after some poetry, she learns that Christian was just a writer, but too late. By this time, Christian has already fallen in love with her. The Duke then interrupts them, and Christian and Satine claim they are practicing for Spectacular, the name of the play that Christian is a part of. This misunderstanding kicks events into gear that leads to Satine falling in love with Christian and the ensuing fatal love story. Lastly, forming a bond isn't the only technique that was used to help progress the plot of Moulin Rouge. Another characteristic of communication is competitive interruption. According to Corey Floyd, competitive interruption is a way to dominate a conversation and speak more often than the opposition. However, the conversation turns into a battle of wits between a few members of the group and not the whole group. And over time, the information from either party can become biased and untruthful. But that's not always the case. In the Moulin Rouge, back when Christian first met the group of performers, he used competitive interruption in a good way. The group performers were debating and squabbling over how a certain part of the script should have been said. The constant bickering didn't allow Christian to express what he had in mind to help resolve the issue. That was until he interrupted the performers by singing "The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music." This at first had surprised the group of performers, but they ultimately agreed on the part, thus resolving the issue that they had. Competitive interruption can be a bad thing in some conversation, like Corey Floyd said. However, when used correctly, it can help solve problems that only lead to more and more arguing amongst group members. Communication is always the key to establish a link between the speaker and the audience. The way we use communication can either be helpful to a point, or it could be harmful to others. Like we use information to point out specific details and to prove our point. But those around us tend to cling to a closed-minded theology, and no one can try their best to pull them out of it. Communication is what makes us who we are as a person and help us distinguish ourselves in society. Many pieces of art, like the Moulin Rouge, help highlight the human characteristics of holding on to what we believe in and the necessity of communication. Communication is the key to molding futures and shaping the world that we live in. Thank you for your time.